It's time to hear it from Harlan. Utah Director of Athletics Mark Harlan takes you behind the scenes with the Utes, the Pac-12 Conference, and collegiate athletics. Now, here's your host, Mike Legasholt.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. Coming up on the September edition of the Hear From Harlan podcast, we'll talk to Mark about the latest developments with the Pac-12 Conference and perhaps where things are headed next over the fall months. Fall sports are underway, and football gets going this weekend as they travel to Florida to face the Gators in the Swamp. And speaking of football, one of their stars, Devaughn Vele, drops by to join Mark for his one-on-one interview segment. Mark, great to see you and welcome.
Good to see you, Mike. Glad that we're able to sit down and put out another podcast. There's certainly a lot to talk about.
Yeah, there certainly is, and we'll get to fall sports in just a moment. Volleyball and soccer already underway. As I mentioned, football opens at Florida. They're ranked 7th preseason. But, Mark, so much of the conversation this summer has been about the changes coming to the Pac-12 Conference, perhaps more teams leaving, perhaps expansion, media rights. It's been on the minds of Utah fans, and it just felt like that was a place to start today with our show. You know, I think just like you, I remember that day back on June 30th when word leaked out that USC and UCLA were leaving the Pac-12 Conference. That is going to happen in 2024. And at least for me, Mark, when we heard about Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 for the SEC a year ago, that just felt different than this. That deal was a regional expansion of the SEC. Of course, there's media rights money involved in that, but this deal with USC and UCLA is just different. The Big 10 isn't just expanding regionally. It's more of a national expansion of their conference, and at least for me, it caught me completely by surprise. Nothing had leaked out in advance of, June 30th, and it was kind of a shock for all of us. So I guess for you, Mark, one, your thoughts when you heard USC and UCLA were leaving the Pac-12, and now how have your thoughts evolved as we head toward the fall months?
Well, it was a difficult morning. It was certainly a jarring moment, professionally and maybe personally. And I always try to separate those things in this job, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that fly. But I got tipped off about 2 hours before it went public. I got a call from someone that was intimately involved and just wanted me to know. And I appreciated that. I didn't like what he told me, but I appreciated it. And for that first half hour, I remember staring out my window. My window faces our aquatic center. And I remember just staring at the same spot for a while, just thinking about this conference of which I grew up in Southern California. I'd spent time at UCLA 4+ years, and just, how did we get to this point,
right,
where we have two cornerstones of our conference leaving without any clue, without any comments of disappointment, no chance to talk about, maybe what they need, just leaving. And so it was jarring, but in those 2 hours before it went public, I was able to get my thoughts together. I was able to talk to President Randall, who's been an unbelievable partner in this journey, to start formulating on our plan. And our plan, first and foremost, is University of Utah, and what's the best thing for us. And so as we began those meetings, and I can't even think about how many hours, just when we thought Zoom was being moved aside, Zoom came flying back into the equation, and so many meetings with Commissioner Kleofkoff, his senior team, the athletic directors, and the presidents and chancellors to this day, right? And everything being talked about, looked about, and making sure that we were aligned going forward. And really where we sit, Mike, today is it's pretty simple. All the different routes for the University of Utah are plentiful. In other words, wherever this thing goes, University of Utah, because of the incredible work by so many people before, student athletes, coaches, administrators, all of that have put us in a very good situation. And so we're able to analyze what's the best path. And what has become very clear to me is the Pac-12 is still our best path, with these other 9 institutions moving forward and negotiating and speaking with our incumbent media partners. But we have backup plans. If the Big Ten decides they want to hold another dance and they need another partner, we'll be ready to activate Plan B, C, D, E, F. I think we're down to like L in those planning operations. But so we go into this with opening anxiety, right? And then as the journey went on, it became very clear that we're going to be fine at University of Utah when we concentrate on what has gotten to this point and invest in students and coaches so that we continue our rise. And the last thing I'll say is, this has been hard. I don't want to sugarcoat it, but it's been rewarding when you hear people that make decisions going forward, what they think about the University of Utah. The data is up in every meaningful category, from attendance, from television ratings, from AAU status as a university, our admission, where we're located in the country. I could go on and on and on. So a tribute to a lot of work, but we're going to be fine. And my very best hope and my belief will be the league will stay together. We'll probably maybe add a few if they bring value in terms of other institutions. And then from a timeline perspective, we will continue to work with the commissioner as he deals with our incumbent partners and then decide if we want to go further into the market. That could take a few more months, along with if we're going to add, that would be part of that process too. So a lot of work ahead.
Yeah. The hard thing for fans, Mark, is for Utah fans, they've been thinking about the Pac-10/Pac-12 for years. That was always the goal when we were in the Mountain West, to get there. And then you get there and you see how it impacted not just athletics, but the entire campus, enrollment, quality of students, professors, staff. It's been a huge upswing over the last 10 years plus. It's been what we thought it would be. And then you look at this group of schools, even with the 10 left, AAU membership, research, all those things, West Coast presence with our alumni. There are so many great things about the Pac-12/Pac-10 that they want to see stay intact. It sounds like that's still a good option. So in terms of looking forward to maybe ease our fans' anxiety a bit, in terms of the 10 staying together, getting some media rights to work for these 10, where are we with that? And when do you think we'll know, okay, if we get to this point and we have some media contracts and we seem solid, that we feel pretty good about the Pac-10 staying together?
Well, I mean, I feel pretty good about it now just because of the work that's going on, a lot of which can't be publicized
right,
or talked about for all the reasons you would expect. And like I said earlier, I mean, you may be aspirational to go make $100 billion, right? I mean, I get that. But you have to be invited to do that.
Right.
So you have to deal with the reality of the fact that the 10 schools are right now marching forward, right? And barring some kind of development, and every morning there's another rumor. I mean, whether it's Taylor and I in Dallas meeting with all these Big 12 people when I was actually in the office, sitting there reading emails.
You can confirm that part for us, right?
Probably sent my prep for this or whatever I was doing, right? So there's been a lot of that. You just ignore the noise and you do the work. And I think it's an important thing to say. It's going to take a few more months. And we're gonna do it the right way. And I believe strongly that we can emerge with probably a shorter type media deal. I don't think 12 years proved to be the best thing at the end of the day. I think we can all agree to that. Shorter deal, work with some great media partner or partners, and march ahead. And then be ready to continue to improve the program, invest the program, and be ready for whatever comes next.
All right, we could spend the entire show on this. We've got Devaughn, the wings, and there's so much that's just speculation. So we'll talk more in coming shows. We appreciate you diving into that to start out. And let's get to the fun stuff, Mark. I mean, we spend the whole summer talking about the Pac-12 and Big Ten, whatever, but the sports are upon us. Soccer already off to a 3-0-1 start. Beat Denver and Illinois State at home last weekend. Cal State Fulton in Thursday, Alabama Sunday. A great start for the soccer team.
Yeah, and a lot of energy. Appreciate everyone coming out to Ute Field. It's been great. We've had to add some extra stands down there, and it's been a lot of fun. It's an exciting team to watch. It's an offensive-minded team who's getting after it, playing a lot of pressure. That Portland game, which I know was a draw, that's a very respectful program starting on the road, and we were down. And to come back and tie it, I think really gave a lot of confidence to the team coming back in. But we've got some big teams coming up. I mean, I kind of look at it, if we can win this weekend, I think we may crack the top 25, which would be fantastic for the program, getting ready for the monster that is this conference, particularly in women's soccer. So, again, we're seeing Hideki's culture really grow right in front of our eyes, and he's doing a terrific job.
All right, volleyball at home for the Utah Classic last weekend. They went 2-1 against Loyola Marymount, number 23 Kansas. They got the loss there to the Jayhawks and also beat Utah Valley. On the road, Purdue this weekend, and then back home to host BYU September 15th, Utah State the 16th, and good start for Beth Lanier's crew.
In her 34th year, as our PA announcer likes to belt out each time. She's really energized. Obviously losing a player like Danny, a transformational player. And by the way, I love it. As Danny walks out, her younger brother is listed as the starter against Florida. I mean,
how about that?
That family is the gift that keeps on giving. Thank you, Parkins. So she's got new faces, and I love the fact that, they had a tough game. They didn't play great. Beth will be the first to say that against Kansas, but then they bounce back and get a sweep. And she's scheduling high, she's going after it with Nebraska around the corner and some others. But again, that team will really mesh as we go forward, and appreciate again folks that come out. It's exciting when we got fans in, particularly in the arena, because it's loud and it's fun. But I encourage everyone to come out and watch Beth's team. They're going to really come together.
As Beth said at the coaches' luncheon a few weeks ago, love the Barnes, just wish they would have had another daughter. They only had Danny, all these boys who have been stars for the football program for years, and Danny was the only daughter, but
it is. Whenever I run into the family, I'm always very grateful.
Yeah,
as you can imagine.
Yeah.
I asked the question too, and they're like, "Nope, that's it. Lander's it. That's what we got.
That's it." Yeah, great family. Let's move on. Cross country opens at the Utah Valley Invitational Thursday in Orem, and I'll have more on them in coming shows. But boy, talk about big-time football openers. I mean, this is about as big as it gets to go to Florida and the SEC in the Swamp on Saturday, ranked number 7 preseason for football. Highest ever in the preseason, and it just doesn't get much bigger than this weekend, Mark.
Well, it's really exciting, and it's very fun to be around the football program and have them talk about it. It's just one of those type of a teams that you play that just from the moment you start, getting back together post Rose Bowl, you're thinking about it, and it's on your mind. And if you're a little bit slow at the lift, you're going to pick it up. And Scott Strickland, the athletic director there, is a good friend, gives me a little grief. He said, Mark, when we scheduled this thing 3 years ago, you didn't say that you'd be coming off a championship.
Right.
And oh, by the way, you'd have 17 starters. And I said, yeah, I knew that 3 years ago, right? But it is interesting because when we scheduled this game, it was way closer than the typical. And it's come fast. And it'll be a great journey for us. We're set to leave in a couple days. Whit has just done a remarkable job, navigating camp and getting the guys through it. And it'll be really, really exciting. It's another big stage, to play Oregon, Ohio State, and now Florida is 3 in a row is a testament to the program, what Coach Whittingham has done, and these student athletes and everybody associated with the football program. And I would just say this, 2 things to our fans that are able to listen to this. Thank you for purchasing tickets. We've seen usually our allotment is times 2 or times 3, so we're thinking 10,000. So thank you. And the second thing is I encourage everybody. There is a lake that Forrest, our newly minted sound engineer who used to work at the University of Florida, knows. There's a little lake that's right by the swamp.
Okay.
I just go look. Don't reach in there.
Don't get in.
I mean, if you want to see more alligators per capita in a fresh water, it's something to behold. So don't miss that. But again, as Forrest would say, keep your distance. So it'll be great for the fans. But hey, listen, it's time to play. You can feel the mood differently. We're taping actually today in the football center, the Spence Eccles Football Center. You can feel it. It's different. It's almost game time, and we can't wait.
I watched Game Day Saturday, and to have all the analysts just skip past the Pac-12 because, Utah is going to win. It's across the board. That's our pick. It wasn't like the SEC and some other conferences. To see Utah, Mark, in that position due to Kyle Whittingham's work, your work, the staff, everyone, to see Utah in this spot, it's just really remarkable.
Yeah, it's their work. It's a day by day, hour by hour, and in Whit terms, minute by minute.
Yep.
To be on this stage, and I don't know what else we could do to prepare for this. And even the incredible folks who figured out to take the Spence Eckers Fieldhouse. It's been such an incredible facility for us, and then figure out a way to create 86% humidity in there. And they said, Mark, come down. I'm like, no, I lived in Tampa. I know what it feels like. Yep. I don't want to be there, but we know it'll be more than that. But you know what? It's a veteran team. We understand that people will be booing us. We get it. We're ready for it. We understand the weather, but we're ready to accept all those challenges and get after it.
All right, Mark, should be a lot of fun on Saturday. Also, the home opener comes up next week. Southern Utah comes in, 11:30 a.m. kickoff. It's going to be early for Pac-12 networks, but hey, great chance to get out for some Saturday afternoon football. And Mark, a reminder to fans, they were great about this last year, but just a reminder again, download your digital game tickets and parking before you get to the stadium just to make your entrance even easier next Saturday at Rice Eccles.
Well, yes, it's kind of an interesting, right? Because we're usually always opening it at home, and
right.
So it's a little bit later. So we encourage everyone, as many did last year, just take care of that. Get those things downloaded. and come early, right? I mean,
Right.
I know it's 11:30, and I know that's already early, but it's not a Thursday night, right? It's a Saturday. So come on down, get. We're going to be full again, as thanks to all our incredible fans. So come on down, get there early, explore the tailgate. And all those kind of things. So yeah, it'll be great, especially after the environment we're going to be on the road, to come back and see our fans, and really looking forward to it. And all the things that always surround opening game in Rice-Eccles Stadium.
All right. As Mark always reminds me, the best part of the show is when I'm not in the seat. It's the student athlete, and we've got a good one coming up. Devaughn Vele from football drops by to join Mark for his one-on-one. That's when we continue next with the Here from Harlan podcast.
For tickets, apparel, team schedules, and more on the Utes, visit UtahUtes.com, the official website of Utah Athletics.
Well, as I often say, the best part of this podcast is when we have a chance to have a great student athlete come in and visit with us, so we can learn about them, not only what they're doing on the field or on the court, but just about them in general. And we have a real special guest today. We have from our football program, Devon Vele, who has been with us now for a couple years, and it dawned on me that we haven't had a chance to have him here on the podcast. And I think, Devon, it's so funny when we talk about journeys of student athletes, what people know and what people don't know. And I find your journey coming here, and of course we know how successful you are, and we'll get into that in just a minute, but your journey to come here is fascinating. Why don't you talk the listeners through how you wound up at the University of Utah?
Yeah, definitely. So it all started out of high school. I didn't get really many offers coming out. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, whether I was going to go to school or I had religious obligations that I had in question. So I ended up serving a mission. I was able to serve in Samoa. I am of Samoan descent, so it was nice going back home. But after I came home from my mission, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do if I was going to continue playing football, because not playing football for 2 years, not working out or doing anything, and then just trying to jump into a collegiate program, it's a big jump. And I just remember I was talking to a lot of my family relatives, asking them if they had any connections with anybody. And one of my good cousins, he told me that he knew somebody here that was a GA working at the Utes. So I sent him my film. I was just hoping the best, but if nothing was going to happen, I was probably just going to take the junior college route. And, they watched my film, they liked what they saw, and they're like, yeah, you can definitely walk on to the team. And being a walk-on, I knew what was at stake. I knew it was hard because you are a full-time student athlete, but you're still paying for school at the same time. So I remember when my parents were the ones who were helping me pay for school, I told them I was going to try to get my scholarship as soon as I can, because I didn't want them to have to pay for that long.
Right.
So I was so committed to myself to make sure I would do whatever is necessary to be able to get the scholarship as soon as I could. Living situation and like the whole process of it was definitely difficult.
I bet.
I actually was staying with family in West Valley. I thought it was a better choice for me because I thought I could save money instead of staying at the dorms, less money from
Right.
me and my parents having to pay. And but they only had one car and they both worked. And so I felt bad if I made them have to take me to practice and take me to school every single day. So we were next to the track station. And so I used to wake up every morning at like 4:30 in the morning.
Wow.
And then walk to the track station, catch the first one at 5:05, and then I would get here at around 6 o'clock so I could be able to get to my 6:30 lift. And it just became a natural thing to do every day waking up at 4:30, getting here by 6, and then I'd probably leave the track station from here or from school around like 9:30, 10 o'clock. I would hang out with some of the boys. They let me crash at their place so I didn't have to keep going back and forth. But yeah, I'd head back home around 10:30, 11, and go to sleep, and then just repeat the same thing the next day.
It really is just, I didn't know in depth.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate you sharing, because I think, just a lot of folks don't understand how difficult it is to compete here in all our teams.
Mm-hmm.
And walk-ons go through so many fascinating journeys. I think yours is unique in some respects, but not unique in a lot of others, because nothing's promised. And so every morning your alarm's going off, and you don't know if it's going to lead to a scholarship that day. You just have to trust in yourself and the program. But it's almost like the way you came here was almost like a job seeker, where know somebody who knows somebody to get in.
Oh, that's definitely what it is.
So you got here and you jumped in the program, and things started to accelerate for you, right? Talk about that.
Yeah. So one thing I really prided myself, as I mentioned earlier, was just I didn't want my parents to have to be paying for so long, and that's really what drove me. I felt that I could play at this level. if I didn't think I would, if I could play at a Power 5 conference, I would have walked on to like an FCS school or maybe even go Division II and probably pick up a scholarship from there. But even in high school, I told myself, I know I can compete with dudes that are in the Power 5 conference. I played against dudes in high school that, we beat them, but they had offers to like, UCLA, USC and all that. And I was thinking to myself, if I could do this on the field, I know I could play at this level. And so, those two factors are kind of what drove me when I first got here. And you can't make mistakes as a walk-on. Like, that's just the reality of it. Scholarship players, they can mess up the plays. If they don't know how to line up, it's okay because money's being put to them. So they're going to keep working with them. But if you're a walk-on, there's no money. There's no guarantee that you're going to be there. So if you're making mistakes, you're going to get booted off the team really fast.
Right.
And so, that's what kind of drove me. I wanted to make sure I knew every single thing that I was doing, everything that the coaches told me to do. I made sure I did it to the T. And I felt like that's what kind of catapulted me into the position I got to because at the time it was Coach Holiday. One thing he told me is like, I like how coachable you are. I knew the plays, I knew where to line up. Obviously, I wasn't as good as the other guys because I had the mission legs. I wasn't the fastest dude. I kind of looked gumpy on the field. But, I made sure I always did the right thing. I showed up on time. I did the right things. They never had to worry about me. And I felt like that was kind of like the foot in the door that kind of like gave me.
You saw an angle there.
Yeah.
Right.
I felt like this is my way. I can attack this point of angle
Right.
and just work from there. And then even just the work ethic. I just knew I had to work harder than everybody else on the field.
So take us through the moment when you got the scholarship. We've all seen videos. I can't recall seeing one specifically of you, but take me through that moment when you were told that you have earned a scholarship.
My story is actually kind of funny. I didn't know I was on scholarship. So it was after 2019. It was after the Alamo Bowl. I was hanging out with some of my friends at the house, and we were playing games and all that. And all the scholarship players were at the Crimson dinner.
Yes.
And only scholarship players are allowed to go to that.
Right.
So I'm over here chilling with my friends. We're having a good time and all this. And all of a sudden I get a call from Coach Holiday. And I'm like, I don't know why he's calling me. So I answer the phone, and he's like, Vele, where are you? I was like, I'm at home right now chilling with some of my friends. He's like, why are you not at the dinner? I was like, this is only for scholarship players. I don't know what you mean. I'm still walking.
It literally is called a scholarship dinner.
It's called a scholarship dinner. I'm not supposed to be there. And he's like, nobody told you are on scholarship right now. And so
goodness.
it was kind of a caught me off guard. I was like, wait, I'm on scholarship? And he's like, yeah, nobody told you? I was like, yeah, nobody told me anything.
Oh my god, that is kind of counter to what we normally say. I'm going to give Whit some grief about that, but I won't get you in trouble. That's how you found out. So not only that, you got a free dinner that night. So
I actually still didn't even go.
You didn't have time to get changed.
Yeah, it was already too late.
Wow. So I'm sure you got off the phone with Coach Holiday, and that must have been quite a moment.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, my friends were kind of laughing at me because they're like, wait, are you serious, or is he like joking with you? And I was like, no, he's serious. So obviously the first people I called were my parents. Those are the very first people I called. That was the only thing that came to my mind because it was like a burden was lifted off my shoulders because it's like, man, now they don't have to worry about paying for school. You know what I mean? I felt like all the hard work, all those late nights walking, all those early mornings walking through the snow, through everything, those late night studies at the film, it just felt like it felt good to know that all of my work paid off. You know what I mean?
That's just it's so inspirational, and I can imagine now, and we'll get into where you are now. Fast forward, but I imagine you have a pretty special place in your heart for the current walk-ons.
Oh yes,
in the
definitely.
program. I bet you really are helping them with that journey.
Yes. Oh, I have a very special place for walk-ons. Like anytime I see them, I always let them know. I'm like, hey, if you ever need anything, I know what you're going through.
Well, and tell them.
Let me know.
They got to find their angle.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's part of the journey. Well. So now, right, you get the scholarship, and we've all gotten to see you play, and I wanted to bring up a particular moment that I know a lot of fans have talked about last season, right? We're heading to the Coliseum. We hadn't won there in a long time, and when you talk to people about last season, a play that often gets brought up. There's really two plays. Britt's punt return, but the flea flicker at USC, which basically ended the ball game, broke their hearts and everything like that. There's such an interesting story behind that play. I'd like you to bring people into the huddle literally on what happened there. Some people know, but I don't think most do. And then I'm also interested, when the play is finally called and you're running to line up, what's going through your mind when you know this could be, if this works, this is going to be a big deal? So walk us through that.
So it was after third down, it was 4th and 1. It was 4th and short, and I think we were on like the 40-yard line going in. And usually Coach Ludd, you know, when we're in a 4th and 1 situation, we're going to give the ball to our reliable running backs. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was prepared to run whatever inside zone, outside zone, whatever is ready to be called. And so I remember we were like, okay, we're going for it because it's almost halftime. We got to try to get a score, put up some points up before we go to halftime. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we're going to run the ball, probably milk the clock a little bit and then kick a field goal. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I remember I was sitting in the huddle and Cam calls a play and he says flea flicker. And I sat there and I'm like, all right, Coach Ludd, I like this. We being a little bold today. Like, I caught me off guard. I really thought we were going to run like some inside zone or something. And so we line up, and USC starts freaking out. And then they call a timeout and all that stuff. And then we come back, and Coach Ludd is like, what play did you do? Because Coach Ludd knows the offense so well that he saw the way we lined up. He knew that wasn't the play that he called. And so he was like, oh, what play was that? And he was like, flea flicker. He's like, that's not the play I called. And then we kind of were all around the huddle. And I remember all the coaches were like, screw it, let's do it. Let's do it. And we're like, oh, yeah, let's do it. We're ready for it. Because even then, they knew we were going to run the ball. But the fact that we were going to do a play that, like, such a play like a flea flicker, I knew they weren't ready for it. So I remember we called it. And when I was lining up, I saw the safety starting to cheat down a little bit. And the corner, he was man on against me, but I knew he was, like, going to play the run because I know we're such a run-heavy team. So once I saw the safety come down, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a big play. I was like,
you felt it.
Oh, yeah, I felt it. But in my head at the same time, I'm like, please don't drop the ball. Please don't drop the ball.
See, okay, wait. I wondered if you guys actually are like every other person that's playing, you know, like me, old man softball, whatever. You feel the same thing, like, don't drop it.
Yeah. It was more so because this was my first game where I first started.
That's right. That was a big day in general for
like
me.
Now I don't really try to think like that too much because
Sure.
now I have that confidence in
Right.
myself. But at the time, because it was my first start, it was my first time playing, and I knew this play was coming to me, I was like, this is my chance. Please don't screw it up. We can do this. And so everybody knows what happened. We ran the play and we scored a touchdown. And, you know, honestly, it felt so good getting that touchdown because of like all the adversity we faced and everything that we were dealing with as a team. And, you know, I just felt like that was just the icing on the cake. Like you could just feel the chemistry of our whole team just at that game, not just on that play, but just in that game in general.
Well, I think that's right. I think that's why that play, you know, it was a little counterintuitive at that moment. And to do it, I think also said something to you guys as an offense, right? Luds is like, because I've talked to Cam about this. He's like, I misheard. I don't know. He'll never tell me exactly. Like, did he just go against orders? Did he mishear? But then the timeout and sticking with it. But the moment you catch that, and it's at the Coliseum, not far from where you went to high school, was there a moment when running back or maybe flying home where you're like, wow, I did that. That was quite a thing.
Honestly, I wasn't really thinking too much personal-wise. I was more so thinking of how good it felt as a team. Yeah,
not surprised.
Obviously, after like you get publicity and all that stuff, and it's nice. But I mean, I felt for me personally, I was just happy our team is just like that was the first time I felt like we played as a team so well. Because Weber State, it was a close call.
Right.
You know, we were still trying to find ourselves, and then everybody knows BYU. And then SDSU, we kind of found our footing. And then Washington State was the fumbling and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a good point.
We were still trying to, like, find our, like, who we are, like, our voice as a team. And, you know, after the USC game, that was when kind of, like, everybody was looking around. It's like, no, we're here to stay.
We got this.
We're the team, yeah.
Yeah,
so.
Again, I appreciate you walking around. It's just fascinating to listen to the inside stories on that. So let's get to this year, and then we'll close with just kind of your academic journey and all those kind of things. But, you know, there was a quote in camp that I remember I was in my office and I saw it come across, and I remember getting up and walking down the hallway because it just juiced me because I think I knew exactly what you were saying. But you were doing a standard interview, and we're talking about being you know, being the favorite. But you said something, and you said now the next step is for folks to fear us. And I think it really resonated again, like your play and that comment. Kind of, let's explore that. Like, talk about what that means.
Yeah. Well, first I want to give credit to Coach Witt. Coach Witt was actually the one who said it. I don't want to take credit myself.
No, I appreciate that. But he appreciates when you guys repeat that stuff. You know he does.
Yeah. No, because I mean that kind of got me juiced up as well. Because it was just a regular team meeting during fall camp, and he was just talking about being feared. And you know that kind of resonated with me because it's like, you know, we've been consistently good as a football program, and I felt like last year was the first time like. Not only were people looking at us like, oh, they're a good team, like they respected us, you know what I mean?
Right.
And we love that respect, you know what I mean? It's good now that we're starting to get that exposure that we need, and it helps with recruiting and everything. But Coach Witt was talking about being a program that's feared now. That's the next step. Like, we can't get complacent. There's always room for the teams to improve. And he said, as a team, we can become that team that is feared. Like, when people see us on our schedule, they're like, ooh, we have to play the Utes. That's a physical team. That's a strong team. That's a well-coached team. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I know some people think it sounds arrogant, like we're saying, like, oh, we want people to fear Utah. Like, and I know some of the fans are saying that, like, oh, he sounds a little arrogant and all that. But it's not even arrogant. It's more so it's what's driving us.
Right.
We have so much expectations. And I feel like if we get complacent or we keep dwelling on the past, like, oh, we're Pac-12 champions, like, nobody cares about that anymore. That was last year.
That's right.
This is a new year. We're about to go to the Swamp in like 4 days.
Right.
You know, nobody cares that we're Pac-12 champions. Like,
Right.
So we just want to get that stigma around our team that, you know, we are a team that's feared. Like, when people see us, they're preparing like it's a championship game because they know what we're going to bring to the table. And are we there yet? I mean, that's yet to be determined, but I feel like we're at a good spot. We're doing all the necessary things. We have most of our production from last year coming back, as well as some freshmen that are contributing as well,
Right.
and the same coaching staff, you know what I mean? I feel like we have a lot going for us. It's just making sure that we look within ourselves to be able to become that fearful factor, that fearful team. So,
well, that's interesting that some arrogance. I hadn't considered that. I think, to me, and maybe because I'm inside the whole thing, obviously, I think it's just been these different steps that Coach Witt has taken the program from, right? You know, and that was a big step for the program last year, right? We've been in the championship game a few times. We had to knock that one down. You guys did it. We got to the Rose Bowl. Next time we get there, we'll win it. These are these steps. And I think it was spot on. And I think for folks that really follow us and understand that journey. Well, as we close, you know, you and I were talking before we turned on the mics about, you know, it's confusing, right? As you look around with the COVID year, so you're a sophomore in the game program that'll be in the Swamp and when we open at home and all those things. But you're actually a senior academically, and you're majoring in communication. So talk a little bit about your academic journey, and obviously you're scheduled to graduate this year.
Yeah, so I graduate this fall. I actually was in my engineering major. That's what I wanted to do. My mom was an electrical engineer. She's really inspirational for me. So I wanted to get into civil engineering. I took like AP Calc in high school and physics and all that good stuff just so I could be ready to take engineering. And then I remember I got here and I took a few classes, and then the advisors told me, it's like, ooh, I don't know if you could do it because it's tough with the labs that we have is during practice, and I'm going to be missing a lot of practice. And so I ended up just falling back on communications, and I'm enjoying it. I've learned a lot of cool things that, you know, I never would have learned if I was in engineering. So I'm taking the most advantage from it, you know, instead of pouting about, oh, I'm not getting a degree in what I want. You know, I'm more looking at it as like, this is an opportunity for me to be more versatile. So when I do go back to school, once football is all said and done, and I do get my engineering degree, that on my resume it also says that I'm a communications major. So it's something that sets me apart from everybody else. So, and I give credit to my parents because they taught me at a very young age that education always comes first. And growing up, I was a really good student, majority of the time straight A's, and you know, I take schooling very seriously. So that's why I know football will always be there, but there's going to come a time when I'm going to have to hang up the cleats, and then that's when the degree has to kick in. And so I know the importance of degrees, and, you know, that's why I'm so committed to coming back to school to get the degree that I want to do and add on top of my value and be able to contribute to society as much as I can.
Well, that's an incredible attitude. And obviously, you know, one of the things that we are challenged with in our intercollegiate world is in a lot of cases, you know, students are able to pursue that. But you're right, when we, you know, engineering and, you know, some of the heading toward law school, those are still challenges that we're trying to work with the academy, so to speak, to work out. But your attitude on it is strong, right? It's a blessing. I mean, I think communication, of which was my minor, you know, gave me a lot of skills that I never would have thought were applicable. But I love your attitude toward it. But I was joking. I mean, by the time you're done here, you could be Dr. I mean, you know. I mean, we never got to Dr. Covey, so you can try to get to.
I might one-up Covey on that one.
You can try to one-up Cove, and he would probably get jealous and come back and try to get it. But hey, listen, thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Appreciate you having me.
Such a joy to have you on to tell your story, which is really profound. There's so many life lessons in there, and thanks for sharing. And obviously, it's a Tuesday before we jump on the bird to head to the Swamp, and I wish you best of luck.
Thank you so
much. I know
much.
you're going to be all over the field. The depth chart's released. We're going to see you at receiver and returning punts And, as I always tell student athletes, make sure you have fun too, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff swirling around and a lot of pressure that we all try to manage together as a unit, a department, and as a team. But have some fun too. But really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend.
For more episodes of the Hear It From Harlan podcast, search for it on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Alexa, Spotify, and YouTube.
And welcome back to the Hear From Harlan podcast. And Mark, you and I have been doing this for going on 5 years now. And I have to say, Devon Vele may have been the best student athlete we've had. To hear a story not just about the flea flicker against USC that really got this team going last year, but to talk about his struggle and really his journey as a walk-on to becoming a scholarship athlete to what's ahead. What an amazing person.
Yeah, I'm still kind of thinking a lot about what he said. I've known about his journey. I didn't know in depth, so, I learned a lot too and just talking to him. Such a composed young man, very old soul, right, in the way he thinks about life. I know a lot of people understand this because a lot of our followers really follow us. But when you hear stories about 5:30 a.m., being here to make sure he gives himself 30 minutes before.
Catching the bus, all that
catching
stuff.
the train, and what if the train doesn't come, and then paying it forward, keeping an eye on our walk-ons now. One thing about walk-ons when you talk to them is it's tough, and when you have an upperclassman like Vele, you just you feel like I'm going to keep pushing because look what he did. The walk-on program at the University of Utah across many of our sports is probably a underpublicized aspect of our success. And it's awesome to see a guy who fought like that, who is now going to be on such a big stage on Saturday. So again, he's an example of many here that fight so hard to get here and just flourish. And it's very satisfying to hear that. I'm glad everyone else got a chance to listen to him.
Yeah, we'll see him start the game, a wide receiver on Saturday, also return punts, and a dynamic athlete. Quickest 40 time on the team, by the way, for Devon Vele.
Yeah, he's a remarkable athlete, but just even more remarkable person. Just awesome.
Yeah, great job on that by you and Devon. Great to hear from him. One of our highlights of the fall is the Hall of Fame weekend coming up September 9th through 10th, and we'll have the induction ceremony that Friday night at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Skier Crystal Hager, women's swimmer Heidi Hausknecht, football player Chris Kemoyatu, and also Eric Weddle will go in. Distance runner Carlo Pillico from the early 80s goes in, along with men's basketball player Mitch Smith, women's hoopster Shona Thorborn, and gymnast Melissa Vitoy. 8-person class, but that should be a fun week and have them with us.
Yeah, it's just always such an amazing process. Our Hall of Fame committee always goes through and presents the names, and it's getting harder. Every year we just have an amazing group of qualified candidates for this very prestigious Hall of Fame, and this class is no different. Excited to, some I've met, some I look forward to meeting, coming up in the next week or so, and be great. And we always have a great event, and then that leads into a big alumni event that we do afterwards. It's just really fun, and then of course we'll introduce everybody at the game. So another reason to come out and be there to celebrate these incredible individuals who performed at the very highest level.
Well, Mark, we had our first coaches luncheon of the season with Kyle Whittingham a couple weeks ago, and we got at the stadium, and it's like, we haven't been here for 3 years because of the pandemic and everything. And I know you had some thoughts as well, just what our fans have done for us through the pandemic, through opening the stadium, just staying with us, and just some thoughts from you on what they've meant to us the last couple of years.
Yeah, although we were able to open our venues last year, Mike, as you know, for our sports, it still didn't 100% feel like we were back together.
Right.
And to your point, we've been able to do those kind of Crimson Club events again with our coaches. We were able to do our scholarship event last year that Vele kind of talked about, right, where our young people are able to meet the folks that support their scholarship. And that was the missing piece, more contact with our supporters and with our fans, and we look forward to continuing that as long as this virus, continues to go away. Although we're still challenged, and we still have to keep an eye on things and keep our kids, safe. But I want to thank everybody. Last year was a remarkable year, attendance-wise and support, not just being there, but being there, right? Being active,
right.
and celebrating our successes. And as we head into this year, I just want to make everyone know how grateful we are. It is so noted by our student athletes and our coaches. We talk about it. We're excited to perform. We talked about it earlier. Soccer goes out there and it's a full, it's not just our students who came down from the dorms to go, but it was also people from the community. And we just don't take any of that for granted. It's these kids work really hard. These students work really hard, and to be supported like this at this level is a joy. And we use it in recruiting. It's helpful, and we continue to be really, really grateful for everyone's support. So I look forward to seeing everybody. I'm going to be wandering around the tailgate. I particularly like extra crispy bacon.
Okay, good
to know.
So
if you see me coming, consider it. I won't ask for it, but consider it. But let's just celebrate the fact that we're all kind of coming back in this way, and we have a lot of things to look forward to across many sports. And I look forward to seeing everybody as we go through it.
All right, as they say, it is go time. Just some closing thoughts from you as we wrap it up for our first show of the fall.
No, we're ready. Our student athletes, particularly our fall student athletes, are in the middle of it. Some of them are already 20% through their season. So the grind is on. And then we got, the basketball is already practicing, and, the skiers are already out doing what they do, in their pre-snow season. So we are full speed ahead. So look out for the Utes this year. I think it's going to be another terrific year.
All right, Mark, as always, appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you.
All right, thanks to Forrest Gumitro on the board. We'll see if we invite him back for the next show, but that'll do it for our first show of the fall. For Mark Harlan, I'm Mike Lagershell. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, so long, everybody.
This has been the Hear It From Harlan podcast. Subscribe and listen all year long as we keep you up to date on the Utes, the Pac-12 Conference, and collegiate athletics.